Have you ever wondered why certain animals behave the way they do? Why does a seagull constantly dive into the ocean? Why do bats only come out at night? And why do bramble bushes seem to grab onto your clothes whenever you walk past? Ancient stories often try to explain these mysteries, and today, we're going to dive into one such tale from Aesop, the master storyteller. It's a fascinating story about a very unlikely business partnership between a bat, a bramble bush, and a seagull. It's a story of ambition, disaster, and the strange, lasting effects of loss. So get comfortable, and let us explore the curious case of these three partners and see what timeless lesson their story holds for all of us. Once upon a time, in a world where business ventures could be formed by the most unusual of characters, a bat, a bramble, and a seagull decided to go into partnership. They were an ambitious trio, each bringing something unique to the table. Their plan was to pool their resources and set off on a trading voyage across the sea, dreaming of the riches they would bring back. They believed that together, they could achieve far more than they ever could alone. The bat, being shrewd but lacking capital, went out and borrowed a large sum of money to invest. He promised his creditors a handsome return, confident that their trading expedition would be a massive success. Meanwhile, the bramble, known for its ability to cling and gather things, invested in what it knew best. It gathered a huge stock of fine clothes and textiles of all kinds. It imagined selling these beautiful garments in distant lands for a hefty profit. The bramble carefully packed its inventory, each piece representing a piece of its hope for a more prosperous future. Finally, the seagull, a natural mariner who knew the ways of the sea, contributed its own valuable asset, a large quantity of lead. Lead was a heavy but precious metal, highly sought after for various uses. The seagull figured it would be easy to transport by sea and would fetch a good price at their destination. With their investments secured, the bats borrowed money, the bramble's collection of clothes, and the seagull's heavy lead, the three partners were ready. They loaded everything onto a sturdy boat and, with spirits high and hearts full of hope, they set sail. The sea was calm at first, the sun was shining, and the wind was in their favor. They chatted excitedly about the profits they would make, the debts they would repay, and the comfortable lives they would lead. The journey started perfectly, and it seemed like their bold plan was destined for success. They were a team, united in their quest for fortune. But as anyone who has ever faced the open sea knows, its mood can change in an instant. Suddenly, without much warning, the sky turned a dark, menacing gray. The wind, which had been their friend, turned into a raging enemy. It howled and tore at their sails. The calm water transformed into a churning chaos of colossal waves that crashed over the deck of their small boat. A great storm, a tempest of terrifying force, had descended upon them. Their little vessel was tossed about like a toy, completely at the mercy of the violent sea. The partners held on for dear life, their dreams of riches quickly turning into a nightmare of survival. The boat creaked and groaned under the immense pressure. The waves grew higher and more ferocious, slamming against the hull with thunderous force. Despite their best efforts to steer through the storm, it was a losing battle. A massive wave, larger than all the rest, lifted their boat high into the air and then smashed it down into the trough. The wood splintered, the mast cracked, and with a final heart-wrenching shudder, the boat and all its precious cargo sank beneath the waves. The bats borrowed money, the brambles fine clothes, and the seagull's heavy lead, all of it was gone, swallowed by the deep, dark sea. By some miracle, the three travelers themselves survived. Battered, exhausted, and clinging to pieces of wreckage, they managed to struggle through the churning waters and wash ashore on a deserted stretch of coast. They had their lives, but they had lost everything else. Their grand venture was a total disaster. The dream of fortune was replaced by the harsh reality of complete and utter loss. As they lay on the sand, soaked and shivering, the weight of what had happened began to sink in. Each of them had lost something they had worked so hard to acquire, and this loss would go on to shape their lives forever. From that day forward, the behavior of each of the three partners changed dramatically, driven by the memory of their lost investment. The seagull, who had lost his valuable lead to the depths, became obsessed with finding it. Ever since, you can see seagulls flying tirelessly back and forth over the sea. They stare intently at the water below, and every now and then, they dive headfirst beneath the surface. They are not just looking for fish. According to the story, they are forever searching for that lost cargo of lead, hoping to one day recover what the storm took from them. Their constant diving is a ritual of remembrance and a desperate search for what was lost. The bat, on the other hand, had a different problem. He had lost borrowed money, and he was terrified of facing his creditors. He knew they would be angry and demand repayment, which he could no longer provide. The shame and fear of this confrontation became so overwhelming that he completely altered his way of life. He decided to hide from the world, at least during the day when his creditors would be out and about. So to this day, the bat hides away in dark caves and crevices during daylight hours. He only dares to come out under the cover of darkness at night to find food. His nocturnal life is a direct result of his fear of facing the consequences of his financial loss. And what about the bramble? Having lost its entire stock of beautiful clothes, it developed a peculiar and rather grabby habit. It stayed rooted to the land, but its memory of the lost garments was strong. From that day on, the bramble started catching hold of the clothes of every person and animal that passed by. Its sharp thorns snag on sleeves, trousers, and coats, pulling and tugging. According to the fable, the bramble isn't just being prickly. It's desperately hoping that one day, among the countless passers-by, it will recognize and reclaim one of its own lost garments from that ill-fated voyage. Every snag is a hopeful attempt to get back what it lost. So, this ancient fable offers a creative explanation for the behaviors of these three creatures. The diving seagull, the nocturnal bat, and the clingy bramble all are portrayed as being driven by a past loss. And this brings us to the moral of the story, the powerful lesson that Aesop wanted to share. The fable concludes with this observation: all men are more concerned to recover what they lose than to acquire what they lack. Think about that for a moment. It's a profound statement about human nature. It suggests that the pain of losing something we already have is often stronger than the desire to gain something new. This psychological principle is something we see all the time in our own lives. It's called loss aversion. Losing $20, for example, often feels much worse than the happiness you feel from finding $20. We obsess over past mistakes, failed relationships, or missed opportunities far more than we focus on the new possibilities right in front of us. The bat, the bramble, and the seagull are perfect symbols of this. They become trapped by their loss. They spend all their energy trying to undo the past to find the lead, avoid the creditors, or reclaim the clothes instead of moving on and creating a new future. They are so focused on recovering what is gone that they are blind to new opportunities. The seagull could be finding new treasures. The bat could be forging new partnerships in the light of day, and the bramble could be growing new beautiful flowers instead of just grabbing at old clothes. Their story is a cautionary tale. It warns us against letting our past losses define our present and future. While it's natural to grieve what we've lost, we must be careful not to let that grief consume us and prevent us from moving forward. We risk becoming like the seagull, forever diving for something that may never be found. The real challenge and the real path to growth is to learn from our losses, accept them, and then shift our focus toward acquiring what we lack: new skills, new relationships, new experiences. Instead of being haunted by the ghosts of what is gone, we can be excited by the potential of what is yet to come. The story invites us to ask ourselves, are we spending our time and energy like the bat, hiding from our past? Or like the bramble, trying to snatch back what's gone? Or are we willing to look ahead, to set new goals and to start a new voyage, even if the last one ended in a storm? The choice, ultimately, is ours. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into one of Aesop's timeless fables. I hope it gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed this story and its lesson, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more tales that make us think. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever felt the pull of loss aversion in your own life? Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.